Just for you, bro.
This is just for Sean, guys.
This is Sean's episode.
This is Sean's episode. Man, we are really sorry we've been gone so long. Left y'all to fend for yourselves.
Step two.
But yeah, we are back.
Scheduling is not as easy.
Scheduling sucks.
It's very difficult to do
You know what I'm
when a lot of stuff is when life is transitioning. Jeff started school.
Mm-hmm.
I started doing more photography. Then I got sick, and we've just been like back and forth. So we're back now.
We back.
What's up?
Hi guys. Hey, hopefully y'all enjoyed our episode on creative culture. Seemed like a lot of people.
That was fun
because it blew up.
That was really fun.
Yeah, man. That was such a good time.
That conversation, it helped a lot to like at least like get the things that were in my mind at the time to get it out. So I know it was like a long time ago, but shout out to you, Aaron and Nemo.
Yeah, man. Love y'all. Man.
Thank y'all for hosting us. That was great.
I got to go to Nemo's birthday.
Oh yeah, how was that?
Bowling. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I met some cool people.
27.
Yeah, man.
Hecka young.
Yeah, man. But they're doing big things. Their channel has completely.
Yeah.
We were running and they like ran up and like, hey, and then they just. I think they're over 500 right now.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they're killing.
I'm serious.
Oh.
That was Siri.
Okay. Why she sound like a dude?
Well,
when did you switch this dude Siri?
I didn't actually switch.
Serious. That's his name.
It has like these like random because like depending on what I'm doing, that determines like what the voice is. So if I'm on the internet,
Siri
this
got
is the
split
voice.
personality.
Yes, over here,
like
Moon Knight. So
man,
it's weird.
That's crazy. Well, but yeah, so we were on there. Cam, did you see Cam's episode?
I seen a few snippets, but I haven't watched the whole thing.
It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I knew Cam was gonna preach his butt off.
Oh, you
too.
know Cam gonna preach.
That
now.
boy can.
He can preach on this Friday. I can't wait. But so first of all, Aaron, thanks for becoming a patron. I became a patron of theirs.
Let's go.
Represent all of us. So Preachers Hour became a patron of y'all.
Yes.
But so I got to watch their stuff early,
which
was cool. So we're gonna start doing that. By the way, patrons, you should be seeing this before anybody else.
Yes, you are gonna see this before anybody.
So if you're not a patron and you want to see stuff early, well, you know what to do. Yeah. So yeah, this is gonna be the last. This is gonna be part 4 of our series on Live No Lies. Okay, Live No Lies. Again, if you still ain't got the book yet,
look, y'all. There's nothing else we could do at this point.
We gotta spank you. Like, what do we gotta do?
This is the end. Like, you're not
gonna get whooping.
You're not gonna get no more content through this. So if you don't have the book, and the thing is, like, what we're giving on here is such.
It's tiny.
I'm talking
scratching
about
the surface, just
1% maybe.
Yeah.
That we're touching. So if you really do want to like be free, and understand that this fight against the devil, the flesh, and the world, a little bit better or a lot better. I don't even say a little bit. It's a lot better.
Yeah.
Man, please purchase that book, and we don't get no money for this.
Not a drop.
Like,
in fact, John Mark, we've been helping you out, man.
Come on, my dude.
Hit us up, man.
I mean, $20. That's all we need.
Get us a 0.01% would be great.
But this book has literally transformed the way that I see the world, the way that I approach, like situations with the devil, like, and how I even like keep my flesh under control.
And you know, that's my big one is the flesh, man. Like just trying to control what I take in, and just trying to like resist and say no to certain things. And it just makes you more mindful of like you're feeding it, what you're feeding your flesh and stuff like that.
I want to just give like a little like insight to something. One of the things that I've been able to do since reading the book is like know my triggers a lot better.
Yeah, that's
because
good.
I know what my flesh is like trying to get me. So I understand that the devil's gonna try to plant a deceptive idea in my head. Once that idea is there, my flesh is literally trying to like grab onto it.
Is that an idea?
Like, oh wait, hold on, wait, well, let me grab that real quick.
Deceptive idea.
And like I know that's happening. So then the very moment that the trigger happens, I'm like, heck no, bro. Like number one, I understand that idea is a lie. I'm not gonna fall prey to that lie. And then I'm able to like use more scriptures to like affirm what is true, and then also to like get my flesh under control and be like, bro, we're not doing that. And it's weird because I do feel like I'm talking to myself sometimes, but I have to. I literally be like, bro, we're not doing that today. Like, there's no way. So it's just been super helpful. And I think this would be like super helpful against like fights against pornography, fights against even like
cell phone addiction,
yep.
Netflix addiction,
unnecessary spending. Like,
that's good.
It's a huge. It's like, oh, you need that.
True.
Bro,
no, you don't. That's a lie.
That's a lie. I don't need that.
I already got 10 of them.
I need to open my Bible. That's what we need to do.
Is your mic facing you, or is that the back? Am I reading that right?
No, yes.
Oh yeah, you're right. Just pull it closer to you.
You can't hear me?
I can't. It just sounds like I'm getting a lot more echo.
Oh, how's that?
Like, yeah, man. So yeah. Anyway, so the last part we're talking about today is kind of like it's more on the world.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so you take these three things, world, flesh, and devil. Now what, right?
Now what?
So how does all of this stuff kind of play out in not only the world that we are dealing with and in, but what does the church do about it? Right? And like, how do we react to this? How do we, exist as the church in this world? Right? So first thing that we're going to talk about, first thing on our notes here, on page 223, is the 3 phases of culture, right? And specifically talking about Western culture.
Yeah.
Right. So if you live outside the United States or outside of Europe, you're like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. But for us Westerners,
boy, we got it bad. We got it real bad.
We are actually in the 3rd phase of Christian culture. So there was pre-Christian culture, Christianized, not Christian, but Christianized culture, and then what we're in now, which is post-Christian culture. Okay, so what was pre-Christian culture? Let me just read from the book here. Pre-Christian culture was the Roman Empire before the Gospel, Celtic Ireland before St. Patrick, or the Norse tribes of the Viking legend. It was a culture charged with spirituality and superstition, but tribal and violent and cruel. Okay, so like you can imagine like almost any culture before the gospel and Christianity got to it.
Yeah.
Right. And so even like when you read the Bible, we read the New Testament, before like Jesus did his thing, even when you get to like the Acts and all that stuff, like they were dealing with a pre-Christian culture. Because Christianity was just starting. So it couldn't do anything.
The whole world was pre-Christian.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so, the gospel spreads. It becomes this little tiny group of Jewish people, the disciples, and then all of a sudden Gentiles come in. And then this little tiny thing just grows into this massive movement against all odds, by the way. This was not like, obviously God was planning it to happen. But it from the outside looking in, it's like, there's no way that this would happen. You would not expect that. You can ask any historian, whether it's secular or not. They'd be like, there's no way this should have become what it became.
Not even because even with the type of people who were chosen weren't educated in that sense. So it was like, how
the bottom of society.
Yeah. So how does this like grow into what it has become?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is funny because then it's like, how do these people become such a nuisance? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like the world was working the way it was working. And then all of a sudden, like all this stuff is disrupting. Where did this start? One dude, 12 people. Who were they? Never heard of them.
And some women?
Yeah. What? It's like, what? So that's actually a really cool, like, to me, that's a good thing to like stand on. The fact that like God used really nobodies to like literally change the world.
Yeah, man. I was just listening to a John Mark sermon this week, and he talks about, I think it's Ephesus, and how like the Christians in Ephesus, like, and Paul and all of them went there and created this church, and it was so disruptive to the culture of that city that they like wanted to kill him. And so the thing about Ephesus is that they had the largest temple dedicated to, I want to say, Aphrodite, which is the goddess of like love and fertility.
Okay.
And part of the culture of worshiping this goddess was going to the temple and sleeping with the temple prostitutes, male or female, and like, buying the idols and all that stuff. Well, because Christianity in the church in Ephesus like spread so crazy, people stopped going to the temple. of Aphrodite, and they stopped buying the idols. So like all the metal work, there's a story in Acts, I forget which chapter, one, say like 17, something like that, where the metal workers are like rioting because, hey man, they ruining our money because nobody's buying our stuff.
Oh wow.
Because this freaking Christianity stuff that's coming in here.
No
It's
way.
crazy. Yeah, man. I was like, I read this story, I'm like, yo, when he broke it down like that, I was like, that's wild.
That is crazy.
Yeah. And you can imagine all the temple prostitutes are like,
bro,
nobody coming to mess with us. Where's the money?
Which is funny. I feel like a lot of the people in that time period, like that was the disruption. Even with Jesus, even with the Jewish people, exactly. Who were like money changers in the temple, and it's like, bro, like you're messing up the flow. Like we knew what we was doing. We was breaded out, and all of a sudden, like the rivers dried up. So we got beef. Yeah. When you start messing with people's money, you get killed. You can get killed real quick.
So Christianity takes off, and all those different cultures become Christianized. Now, we can't say Christian culture because, just take Rome, for example. So the Emperor Constantine, like, becomes a Christian on his deathbed. And he's like, all right, everybody is now Christian. It's the national religion of the empire. So we're going to change a bunch of stuff to be Christian. So like you take Easter, for instance, was worshiping a different God. And they said, no, we're going to switch this to worshiping Jesus. He's the new guy. We like him. Cool. They took a bunch of different festivals and just made them Christian. So they were Christianized, right? Okay. So the culture, they kind of adopt some Christian things on top of what they were already doing. Okay. Not necessarily a bad thing, but that's just what it was. It wasn't Christian culture. So America.
So it was still Roman culture, just
with a little bit of Christianity on top.
Got you.
Right. Which can be a problem because then it's like, oh, we're all Christian. Of course, I'm
right.
Christian, right?
Yeah. So they become a Christian nation.
You get the nominal Christianity, which you have the same problem in Muslim countries today. Of course I'm Muslim.
Right.
Do you pray from time to day? Nah, but we've all been Muslim.
Whole family's Muslim. Like this is us.
Or like in Greece right now, everybody's Greek Orthodox, but they're really not. But it's cultural to be Greek Orthodox, right? So anyway, that's Christianized culture, and he even says in the book here, they moved into a new Christianized mode. I say Christianized, not Christian, because there's no such thing as a Christian culture. So he says, what the second culture was called was always a mix of Christian and pagan, or later secular ideas, values, and practices. But there was a time in the West when the basic framework of Christian thought was accepted across the social spectrum. So when we get to America, and we're in a Christianized America, that's why people think that America is a Christian country, a Christian nation, because of this idea, like, oh yeah, of course, yeah, man, you know. And there was a long time. You go back to the 1950s where it was okay. It was cool. It was fine. Everybody went to church on Sundays. You wore your Sunday stuff. You have family dinner, whatever. Yeah. Like, it was just kind of like, people prayed in schools. Like, that was a normal thing. You know, and so that was the culture that I think a lot of people believe is still around. Especially if you go like to the South, like more conservative parts of the country, like they're still Christianized. Yeah. While the rest of the country, especially us living in California, we are definitely in the third phase,
all the way out.
Yeah, we are post-Christian. Now, post, if you don't know, means after. So it's not necessarily, I mean, it kind of is anti-Christian, but it's post-Christian. So what that means, let me read from him here. Post-Christian culture is an attempt to move beyond, or that's what post also means, beyond the Christian vision while still retaining much of its scaffolding. Right?
Like trying to hold on to the morals and the values of Christianity while not practicing it.
Like, the funny thing about it is that human rights is a Christian thing. Yes. It's a Christian idea. I mean, you go back to that same Roman Empire, there was no such thing as human rights abuses or human rights, laws or whatever. It was just like, oh, you're poor, you're homeless, whatever. Sucks to be you, big dog. Like, And so the Christians in the empire started like, they started voting and picketing. Like, no, they just took care of the poor.
Yeah.
They created hospitals. They created, all these different things that we would consider today like third.
Yeah. You would even think about like welfare. Like it was like looking out for the welfare of other people.
Yes.
So Christians took that on because most people wouldn't.
Yeah. And you think about like the Red Cross or, Salvation Army or whatever, like those type of organizations came out of like this idea that Christians thought that people had basic human rights.
Absolutely.
And then like Americans like, yeah, we like that. Mm-hmm. And then we've taken and acted like it was an American idea.
Yeah. Like we made it up ourselves.
There's so many different Christian ideas that America takes for granted, that people in America take for granted. Like even if you're an atheist, but you think like it's wrong to do certain things, well, you're assuming everything you're saying is coming from a Christian worldview. You just don't understand it. You want to acknowledge it.
Which is funny because I was reading Romans 1.
Oh, that's good.
And it literally says that like God gives you over to your own way of thinking when you choose not to acknowledge him for what he's actually done. So it's like you saying, oh, like I think that it's really good idea so that we treat all humans with value, dignity, and respect. But God didn't do that. That's just human. That's just human nature. And it's like, that's not human nature. That's actually anti-human nature.
Exactly.
To like care for other people. Like human nature is to like, no, care about yourself and do whatever you want and do what makes you happy, even if it comes at the expense of someone else. So, which I thought was it's really awesome. The fact like John Comer has like adopted this idea like on every level of his life. And he talks about this in his other book, The Relentless Elimination of Hurry. Yeah. And he talks about how like he tries not even to buy clothes that he doesn't know exactly where it came from.
Yeah.
So he's just like, we're not going to have a bunch of clothing that was used or made by people who are in like literal concentration camps or like what we would consider like slave camps.
Yeah.
And it's like, dang, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But it goes super deep. So he's like, I'm not going to fund that because it's, and truthfully, if you buy that shirt from that whatever place,
Nike.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
Yeah.
So they buy like all like, I think it's like
ethically sourced.
I
think. Yeah. Same thing with like coffee or whatever he gets. Yeah.
So it's just kind of like being,
which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
I would say it's easier to do that in a city like Portland.
Oh, absolutely.
Than it is in where we live.
Yeah. It's difficult out here because
literally
everything.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, it's part of the culture.
Oh,
right.
So that's true.
So like they're like, you got to bike to work because you got to protect the
environment. Yeah.
They're just their view of things, which a lot of what they're taking is Christian. But they would not acknowledge that it's a very secular city. But like, it's funny. Like you can look at almost any section of Western culture, whether it be conservative or liberal, and a lot of the good things that they have are Christian.
Yeah.
Christian in their source.
I mean, the truth is, it's really weird. Number one, everything is God's. So like God's standard is like the actual standard, and then we kind of like make this substandard and try to pretend like we came up with it ourselves in all of the world. But when it comes to the majority of these ideas, I think trying to sprinkle Jesus culture on top of stuff or Christian culture on top of stuff, that's kind of like the danger behind it. Because once you do that, then it's like, well, we've already been doing this. And now you're saying that Jesus is the one that makes you do this. Well, that's not true. You weren't doing this before. Christians started this, and then you adopted it. And now you're like rebranding it as something that you've done yourself. So I think that's what post-Christian is.
if you like push people enough and you dig and you ask them enough questions and you point out, okay, well, why do you think that's right? Why do you think that's good or not good?
Right.
And then you're like, well, actually, it comes from, you can trace it back historically, but they're like, ugh. They're uncomfortable with it.
It's like, no, we don't have to talk about that. You always turn everything into a Christian thing. Well, everything is a Christian thing.
Yeah. So he says, post-Christianity is not pre-Christianity. Rather, post-Christianity attempts to move beyond Christianity while simultaneously feasting upon its fruits. Right? And Mark Sayers, who's like freaking genius guy, pastor from Australia, who's one of John Mark's best friends. I've seen him. He has his own podcast. It's really great. Anyway, he says, basically, culture's thing is we want the kingdom without the king. So we want everything that Jesus and God offers without Jesus and God. Right?
What causes that? Like, is it the fact that we just don't want to submit?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the fall. Like, we want to be God, right? But like, we can acknowledge, and you can see it in so many different parts of culture.
We want the garden, but not the gardener.
Ooh, bars. But you can see it in so many different parts of culture, where like, I mean, this is a very loaded trigger warning. It's a very loaded example. But like, you look at like gay couples, they want to be married in a church, and like, I used to be like, well, why? Like, what? Just get married. Like, you're legally married. You're recognized by the government, by the state. Like, you have all the benefits. Like, why do you need to get married in the church? Well, it's because this is just my opinion. It's because they recognize, okay, like, God, like, being okay with us, with us is important. I think any person would want, if there is a God out there, they would want that God to be okay with them.
Yeah.
And like, they want to be good with that God. Like, the whole idea of salvation, like, yeah, I want that. And I want the benefits of that.
I can agree.
But like, having to like listen and do all kind of stuff, bro, this is about freedom and our Western idea of liberty and individuality. And
that gotta be able to express myself.
Yeah. Man,
that's so true. And I think that's true of so many different things. Like, it's almost like, you, even if your dreams, like say you dream, you have a dream to be something, but like, you don't really want to submit that to God because you fear that he'll be like, or either you fear or you know that he's gonna be like, no, that's not it. And it's like, but I feel such a passion for that. I feel so strongly toward this, and it's like, yeah, no, but that's not good. Or it could be like, it's not good, or it's just not good for you. So I think one of the things that it comes, like, submitting to God and to like wanting to be, okay with God, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You have to either say, I'm cool with God, whatever he says, I'm going for that. Or you got to be like, I can't be cool with God, and I just got to figure out my own way on my own. Because trying to get God to okay your idea or your dream, that's just never going to work. God's not looking for your approval. He doesn't care.
Yeah, and I think you see that it's so funny, man. You see it in churches, in like very conservative circles, where Christianity has basically become like, God is going to co-sign you.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you, whatever you want to do it, man. God is with you.
Yeah.
Like, is he though? Like, I've seen like, they're telling kids like, yeah, man, you want to be whatever you want to be. Like, you want to be a football player? Go for it. God is with you. Like, how do you know that? Like,
it's like when David, was it David? No, I think it was, it was Nathan told David.
Oh yeah.
And
you want to build a temple?
You want to build a temple?
God is with you.
It's a great idea. And then Nathan, the prophet, goes home, and God's like, bro, who told you?
Who told you to say that?
Man, who told you that?
It wasn't me. Go back
and tell that boy he can't do that.
Nah, man.
And I think that's one of the things that our Christian culture, or I guess our Christianized culture, is just trying to do the same thing. It's trying to sprinkle Jesus over the top of your dreams. And I was even telling
you become God at that point. Yeah.
Because if God is at your beck and call,
I'll follow you.
You know what I'm saying? Like, who's the one that has the authority? A lot of our students have that same idea. They're just kind of like, man, I want God to make me successful. Well, he will, but you have to understand like what his definition of success is. It is that you prosper as your soul prospers. If that means your soul, that you have to go through some fire, some hell, some hardship in order for him to bring out what he needs to bring out in you, then that's success.
Or success is doing what he created you to do.
Yeah.
Not what you want to do. One of my favorite J. Cole songs is apparently off of 2014 Forest Hills Drive. And one of the lines in the hook is like, I asked the Lord to follow me. I don't know if you've heard that song. I asked the Lord to follow me. And I remember when I first heard it, I was like, no, Jermaine, like you're supposed to follow him, but I know it doesn't rhyme, so I get what you're trying to do. I'll let that one slide.
That's a difficult.
But that line says so much about our culture. That's what everybody is like. Oh yeah, if there's God out there, yeah, cool. Come on with me, God. Mm-hmm. Like I want you in my back pocket. You can help me when I need help.
I think Aha has a line that says, I want God to support, but I don't want to make God a stepping stone to my own success. Mm. So like he's saying like, I don't want to make God the person that like I step on in order to get to where I'm going. Cause like that to me is like an ultimate disrespect. Yeah. Like you stepping on the master's back in order to make your little dream come true. And
that's the thing. That's such a good line, Brandon. Your dream is little compared to God's.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It's super tiny. And then you go out there. Because my thing is like you accomplish that. Some like even like the American dream. Mm-hmm. Say you accomplish that, but it doesn't bring.
Let me tell you, I've done it. And it's not that great.
Like you could literally buy a house, have the car, have the career, like everything that you aspire to have, and get to the top and be like, I'm still empty, or there's something still missing, and
I'm
then you
still
find
the
out,
same.
Yeah,
None
I'm still
of this
me.
Stuff changed me. I still have to deal with me.
And then you find yourself like submitting to God, moving to a third world country, helping, and you feel the most fulfilled in your whole entire life, and none of that other stuff mattered. So that's why I think about as we think about just like the flesh sometimes, like. If we don't ever get that into control, because I think one of the biggest sins humans commit against God is the fact that you trying to find satisfaction in everything but God, and that it just doesn't work. And it's like I feel like God's like exhausted looking at humans like, bruh, that is not. You're going to find out in 2 years that you wasted 2 years. Ooh. And I'm sitting here trying to tell you right now that stuff doesn't matter.
Your soul was made for something greater.
Oh my God.
Which is me, which is God. Like he was like, your soul is made for me. And your soul can't prosper. Your soul is starving. One of our boys at TG, who's friends with Cam, who's on friends with State Zay. Yeah. He has a line that Cam told me, so I'm stealing it from Zay, Cam stole it from you, Zay. That our souls we're spiritually anorexic because like most of us only eat once a week, if that. And I mean, if you physically only ate once a week,
you'd be very scrawny,
you'd be very unhealthy. Well, our souls are going through that because we don't eat, we don't read the Bible or stuff that's going to edify us, talks about the Bible like this book, or we don't spend time with God in prayer. We don't spend time with the community.
We don't even enjoy time with God. Like it's almost to the point where we like
talk about it.
We sit around, bro, and like, and I'm not gonna lie, so when I was sick, I didn't spend any time on my phone, and anytime that I did, at one point I had like this one Instagram reel, like not even a song, it was like someone's sound. Yeah. And it was like playing in my head over, and I was like, God, if you can make this thing shut up, like I would bow down and worship you all night, even sick. And I was like, bro, why is this like, I'm talking about constantly. And then at one point I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to turn on the Bible app and like let it read scripture to me and try to like wash my brain. And it worked, bro. Like it worked.
That is good.
The sound moved out of my head. And then I was like dwelling on scripture, and I thought to myself, bro, what it would be like if scripture was like the thing that was playing over that you couldn't get it. Like, why can't I get the scripture out of my head? And I'm talking about, bro, I have not been that satisfied in so long that I was like, I don't even want to look at Instagram. I almost deleted it at that point. I was like, I don't need this. But I was like, I have a business, so I can't delete this right now. But
your wallet was like,
hold on. But I want to get to a point, and I think this is something that the church needs to address in number one in its students, like we have to push more Bible than anything else. Because at the end of the day, that's what God has given to us to know Him. And the truth is, like, we use like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and we say stuff like, "Oh yeah, there's this great this on there, and there's this great this," which is good.
Amen.
But the problem is, it also comes with a billion distractions.
Yes, it does.
So if you're gonna send someone to YouTube, like, just know that on the side of that video you sent them is a ton of videos that their flesh already wants to watch.
Yes.
It's already curated for them to like go after. So it's like, if I'm going to like teach kids anything, and we just started teaching Romans 1 with our students on Tuesday, I'm like, y'all have to understand that you choosing to get on Instagram rather than read your Bible is a sin. Like, I just want you to know that. Like, it's you saying, yeah, God, you're not that interesting, and I know I'm supposed to be friends with you, but I'm just going to go ahead and hop on this TikTok video for 4 hours. One of our students had 12 hours per day on TikTok.
Shut up.
12
I
hours
was not
on there.
expecting you to say that. My YouTube, so for the week, I average between 10 and 12 hours total
day
for the week. And that's a lot. You're only a lot awake. There's only 20. You've spent half your day
and this is an average. So I'm just like, do you ever turn TikTok off?
That means that they're in, which I have students who do this. I should probably check their screen time on TikTok because I have kids who are in class, the whole class.
I'm just like,
that's the whole class, and I'm like,
I don't get it, dude.
That is
I don't,
so
and
crazy,
I was like, everyone did it, or everybody who wanted to did it, and after that, that's when I was kind of like, I want to throw your phone, or I want to talk to your parent. I'm just like, how do you get anything done? Like, what are your grades looking like?
They gotta put an app timer on that mug.
12 hours per day. Because I was like, maybe I was like, that's not per day. It's like, no, it's per day. It's per day. And I'm like, girl, you're tripping. There's no way. Like, you're only awake for like 9-10 hours a day. It's like, I don't really go to sleep.
Yeah, there's that too. They don't sleep anymore.
They just all day long. So I think one of the things that we just have to try as a church, as Christians, is to find a way in this post-Christian world to elevate the word of God above. Like, it's going to take a lot of time, and you're only going to have a few people who are going to actually do it. But like, we got to start just elevating. Like, if you want to know God, you got to read your Bible. Like, until you get to a state where you can sit there and like meditate, but you got to have Bible in you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? If you don't have Bible in you, when you sit down and meditate, it's going to be TikTok in your head.
Yeah. I mean, it's Psalm 1. Psalm 1 talks about meditating on the word.
Yeah. But it's got to be inside you for it to come out.
Right.
It's not going to come out of nowhere. The Holy Spirit's not going to just like whisper scriptures in your ear. That's just not how it works.
And if he does, talk to me. I want to talk about it. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and take our break, and we still have a whole bunch more to talk about. We literally only did the first point, which is great. So
5
we'll
more
back,
than
guys. Hey, guys, what's up? This is an ad, so bear with us. Don't skip it. Guys, we have a Patreon. We've been talking about it for a long time. We would love some more of your support. Okay, if you get anything out of this podcast, any gems, any like good information, knowledge, you feel uplifted and encouraged, please think about supporting us on Patreon. Become one of our patrons, man. We want to expand this thing, make this even better than it is right now. We have, done a lot of renovations out of our own pocket. So guys, like, please think about becoming a patron.
Yeah, because your support goes a long way. It'll help us continue to upgrade our cameras, our computers, everything that we do here. But we literally can't do it without you. So if you feel led to, please support us through this platform and continue to support us as we continue to grow and give you better content.
Thanks, guys. Love you.
See ya.
All right. We are back from our break. If you're a patron, you got to see the break.
Man.
Not. Sucks to be you.
Or,
it doesn't
you could just hop
make
into
it not suck.
Yeah. You can hop on that Patreon and help us out in major ways. So,
okay. So, continuing our conversation here, talking about post-Christian culture, I want to read this line from 225.
Okay.
It says, the West inherited from Christianity incredibly high standards for human rights, but without Christ's presence and power, it's increasingly devoid of the necessary resource to achieve those moral goals. So like, yeah, I mean, like we rarely live up to our own standards.
Bro, that is literally all of America all the time. Mm-hmm. It's like you want, and I guess that's the problem. You want something that you didn't create, and you want to make it your own, but yeah, you can't live up to your own standard. And when you fail, you almost like, because cancel is one word, but like what we do to humans who don't live up to our standard that we don't live up to.
He literally talks about that. He says, without any means of atonement, as well as an increasing hostility toward the idea of forgiveness. Once you sin, like it's it, you're done.
That's it.
Society. Like, because the idea of forgiving is when my students have beef with each other, trying to get them to like, yo, man, like just it's okay. Like they messed up, but no, I can never forgive them. Like I'm gonna hold them this for the rest of my life. Like, bro, you're 13. Like you're gonna be mad at them for forever for this.
Me 50 years old talking about. You remember that one guy?
He made me drop my phone. I'm done.
He stepped on my shoe.
Yeah, man. So that's it's scary, bro.
It is, and
that's a good point.
When we try to like hold up that standard, I think it's something that Jesus talks about, like for which judge not, lest you be judged. For which in the
measure that you judge will be.
Yeah, the measure that you judge others, you will be judged. Simply put, if you judge someone and then you do the same thing, you're going to be held to the same standard you held them to.
Right.
So
not even like Jesus' standard.
No,
you're going to be held to your own standard. And you're just going to be worse than his.
Because you're a fallen person. And I think what this culture does for most people is like, one, it makes most Christians or people on the outside of Christianity, people who don't follow Jesus, they have this idea that Christians are judgmental, and could be rightly so. I think that a lot of Christians are judgmental, but at the same time, most Jesus followers are not, because they understand that in which measure they use to judge, they will be judged.
I have no business.
No, bro, I'm not, and it's me telling you that this is wrong. It's not me passing judgment. It's like, I'm really just trying to warn you the same way someone warned me. So it's like, there's a cliff, don't fall. Yeah. How dare you tell me where to go? I'm just letting you know. Like, if you're going to keep walking, you're going to keep walking.
My choice.
But when it comes to that, the standard for like other people, I always think that our hearts are so wicked that it's almost like if we let this slide, it's going to make everyone else think it's okay. Like if we forgive, then they're just going to keep doing that.
Well, it's hard. I mean, like they're almost not wrong in a sense. Like he says, like when if you take Jesus out of it and you take the atonement, you take forgive, you take like the gospel, they can go right back. Yeah, you're right. There's literally no power outside of yourself to not only help you forgive, but help the person that hurt you
to change. Yes.
Right. So once you take Jesus, like trying to have the kingdom out the king, it doesn't work. We can see it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's wild. Now looking at it, it's like, yo, that I don't have to, like, you forgave me? Cool. I'm going to do that again.
Because there's no reason for me to like, I didn't even think it was wrong. When I did.
Exactly.
So
there's no morality
I'm not
behind
convicted.
it.
Man, and it's funny.
That's crazy.
So, my job uses this curriculum. I think it's called Character Strong. And I really feel like people who created it are Christian, but I'm not totally sure. Okay. But like everything that they teach is very much Christian principles, but they don't say anything about God. And I'm like, this isn't, it's simply behavior modification at best. Yeah. And it can't work. If they don't have a reason, if the kids don't have a reason why this is the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, then why should I listen to this?
I mean, you can tell it, and you can tell a kid 100 million times not to do something, but like without the why, it's almost pointless. Like you could take an extreme example. Why don't we play with fire? Well, because you can burn yourself, or you can burn somebody else, or you can burn the house down. This is why. But if you say don't play with fire, that kid's just like,
But it's fun. Have you seen it?
Like, this is incredible stuff. This could probably do some amazing things. Well, yeah, it could burn the house down. But if you don't tell someone that, so even in a sense, if you don't tell people the truth about Jesus, and you want forgiveness, you want morals, you want people to have values, without Jesus, that stuff is pointless, because at the end of the day, it becomes all subjective. Or objective.
No, you're right.
Subjectives, yeah. So literally, you could just say, "Oh, well, that doesn't matter to me," which could be 100% true. Mm-hmm. But when the standard is Jesus, it's like it doesn't matter if it matters to me, or if it matters to Jeff, or if it matters to anyone. Mm-hmm. It matters to God, and because I love Him, this is why I don't do, or this is why I do.
And not only that, like, this is what's best for all of us.
Yes,
this is going to lead to all of us flourishing
as the human race.
This is going to lead to human flourishing. Yeah. So I want to get to this point about colonized by culture on 226. So he says the following. Let's see. So if you're coming from a Christianized culture to a pre-Christian culture, you're going back. Mm-hmm. Right, so you're from a Christianized culture. You go to a pre-Christian culture that has not experienced God yet. The danger is that you can colonize that culture, the pre-Christian culture. Right, you dishonor and damage the indigenous culture rather than honor and serve it. We've seen that all throughout history, whether in the 19th century, like the 1800s, when England missionaries went to Africa, or some other places, and what happens is, they don't realize that their culture, what they're bringing is Christianized. Right. It's still their culture with some Jesus on top. Mm-hmm. So what you end up doing is forcing this other culture to become like yours. Like, oh, no. We dress like this in church. We think it's like, this is Christian. No. This is what your culture does.
Absolutely.
We play this kind of music. We have this things. You have to do it in this language. Mm-hmm. So you end up colonizing the other culture. It's horrible. It is all throughout history.
It is very destructive,
right? But there's another danger, okay? When you're coming from a Christianized culture to a post-Christian culture, okay, you get colonized by the culture.
Oh, dang.
That's what happens.
That's what's happened.
So, yes, it has happened, right? The danger is not that you colonize the culture, but that you are colonized by the culture.
Ooh.
Okay, and this is ideological colonization, right? Obviously, the world's not pulling up with tanks and guns. Like, you don't listen to. Mm-hmm. It's about ideas.
That's wild.
Yeah, man. And go ahead.
I think that like in this day and age, I don't know, because I had asked you this question before we started recording. Is like, when did post Christian happen? Like. Because for me, like, I feel like when I was a kid, everybody went to church. Like, there were very few people in my circle who didn't. But there was a lot of kids I went to school with who, like, they were like,
at least familiar with it.
Yeah, so, like, everyone had, like, an understanding of what church was. And they respected it. So, like, it was like, I don't go to church, but, like, I'm not going to, like, I remember when we were kids, like, saying the Lord's name in vain. Like, I don't care what kid you were. Like, that's you was like,
hey,
whoa, bro, what did you say?
You're wild.
Like, did you just say GD, bro? And like, I'm talking about no matter who you were. Kids just like, nah,
my bad. No.
That's going too far. But nowadays, it's just like, I mean, everything is, it's wild. But I think about, like, I feel like I was raised in a Christian or Christianized, it's Christian culture. And now that I'm in a post-Christian, I can see how, like, that in the environment I live in now has literally changed, not just like it's changed me. Like, being a part of this culture has changed me. I feel like I've been fighting against colonization. Like, it's like I'm the resistance.
Well, yeah,
la resistance.
That's what we have to be.
So I feel like I'm pushing in that sense. But then I look at, like, other, like, kids. So when I was like 7th, 8th grade, now I'm looking at 7th, 8th graders, and I'm like, dang, it's a wrap for them. Like, they don't have no gun, they ain't got no sword, they ain't got no, like, they have nothing to defend themselves, and it's not
even just that. It's they have willingly, like, they have given in They don't even want to fight.
They don't even want to
fight. They don't want to fight. It's like, why would I do? Have you seen these things? These phones? This is amazing stuff. I don't want to fight this.
This feels great.
Yeah.
Yet
Man.
depression is on a high. Yet anxiety is on the rise. Like, and when I look out into like the future, and I try not to do this because it's terrifying to me. But when I try to like peer into like when my kids are in, high school. So my oldest is 9, and I'm like, in 4 years, she'll in 3 years possibly, because she turns 10 in September. Good Lord. Very soon she will be in high school. And I'm like, I don't like, that's not even a far future. And I have no idea.
Middle school is coming. That's the worst one.
Yeah, middle school is terrible. But just like that future looks so grim to me, bro. Like, sometimes I'm just like, am I just gonna like take my kids out of society? Like, holy, like
we're not going. Wait, what?
Just like we're not gonna put in. No, I'm not gonna let you like even experience this. But then I'm always reminded like that's not what Christ. It's not even. That's not Christ-like, because Christ says like I took you from the world, not send you back to the world. Yeah. So it's like they still need. They need to be there.
They just need the tools and the discernment, cultural discernment, to be able to realize like what's happening, right? So even talking with them about these ideas in this book would be really helpful. Just being aware, hey, this is the situation you're up against. Like the world is gonna try to colonize you. Yeah, man. I think.
I don't know if we actually like teach our kids that kind of stuff. Like tell them like the fight is here. Like be ready for it.
I told you about that book I'm reading called Faith for Exiles. We did a podcast on it. Like that's one of the main themes of that book is like helping young people to recognize, to discern what is happening, what's going on around them, and how to deal with it, how to fight it. And I just listened to a podcast actually with Carrie Newhoff, and the guy who helped write that book. I forget his name. It's Michael. He's in charge of Barna. He's the president of Barna. Michael something. I'm sorry. But anyway, the book is great. But Andy Bird, who's the leader of this organization called YWAM. It's huge. He was on the podcast and they were talking to him about like Gen Z. And he's just like so hopeful. I've actually heard a lot of things about Gen Z, that they are really zealous, very hungry, and they have a strong desire to be on fire for God and not care. What they lack is biblical knowledge and wisdom, and people to like help them like learn this stuff. But they are on fire.
You know what? I have to agree.
They want it bad. They're hungry for it. They just don't know.
They don't know how to do it.
They don't know how. And like one of their biggest obstacles is that they can get information super quick, and the Bible's not designed for that. And so like we need to show them like, hey, slow down. I know it's really hard for your generation, but slow down. Yeah. And let's learn what the word says. Yeah. Right. And so that's what they need us for. But I'm telling you, Gen Z is not hopeless.
I mean, now that I think about it, because I mean, I have some legit students who are like, they're hungry. They're willing to sit and learn, but they have to be placed in the right environment. Like I'm starting to learn even now, like Tuesday night. I mean, even like just church in general may not be the best place to teach the Bible. Like it's a good place to like preach and to like, kind of like, cause, and let me put it this way. I think I found the difference, at least for me, between preaching and teaching. And this could be completely wrong because you're way smarter than me. So my understanding is like preaching pushes you to an action very soon after preaching is done or while preaching is happening. While teaching says, all right, go home, think about this, and then let's talk about this later. So my students, most of them are really good at hearing preaching and like making decisions after, or like making the decision to do nothing. That's also a decision. So that's kind of where they are. But what I think we need to do is like remove ourselves from the organized worship gathering time, and then say, you know what, we just need time offline to talk about whatever we're going to talk about.
Listen, so again, two things in this podcast. Number one is that this generation, Gen Z, they are an activist generation. They want to do stuff. They want to do something. They want to go out and we're going to protest this, protest that.
Yeah.
Like, they are an activist generation.
We're walking out.
Yeah. Also, they want raw, unedited stuff. They hate when stuff is too edited and too clean and too produced and too organized. So like you said, they don't want this is too scripted. Yeah. It's too like,
it's like everybody knows what to say, exactly when to say it.
It's like too organized and programmed and scheduled. They want stuff. They want raw, unedited experiences of God. And so it's like, hey, we're gonna go to the woods and we don't know what's gonna happen. That's kind of what they want.
We don't know what's going happen. That's what I'm talking about.
So yeah, man. So I listened to on the plane ride back home from Colorado yesterday. I was just like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And like,
I would have never known that. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, that's the thing. Like he was saying like how, and they were talking about on the podcast, and Barna's done some research on this. Just on the Great Commission, they just did a study on the Great Commission and how like I think 60% of churchgoers have never even heard of it, or they don't know where it is in the Bible.
Yeah, I can agree.
Right, and so like we've got to teach people about this, but like, and the cool thing is we're far enough away from the millennial generation, us, to know everything about them. Right, like we've been around long enough to where we can actually say, okay, this is them. Yeah, this is where we got them wrong. This is where we got them right. This is their strengths. This is their weaknesses. And every generation is reacting to the previous generation.
True.
Right. So, you know, the Gen Z right now is reacting to some of the weaknesses of the millennial generation. They're like, you guys didn't do this. We don't want to do that. Yeah. Right. Millennials is the same thing to Gen X. Gen X is the same thing to the boomers. And you have the great generation, which was the ones that fought World War II. Oof. Like everybody, the fact that we can call them the greatest generations because we were far enough away to study them and say this is
because they really persevered and came together and did all great stuff.
So, but then they said this in the podcast, because when the greatest generation was 16, everybody hated them. Like they didn't become the greatest generation when they were kids.
It was when they
so we've got to give Gen Z time
to come of age,
to get older, and see what they're gonna do.
That's true. I like that, man, because I think that it does give me a lot of hope, but it also gives me like actionable steps. So like knowing that like the majority of my students they're not gonna take in the information, especially if we're like trying to study the Bible, not necessarily like taking a phrase from the Bible or one verse and like talking about that verse like as a motivational speech that they can handle that, but it's not going to impact them. Like some of the stuff we were talking about, we talked about a lot of stuff, but we went back to Genesis and like number one, they didn't know how many days it took for God to create the universe, which I was just like, what? So some students knew and they didn't say anything. Well, afterwards, they was like, I didn't know that. I'm like, you didn't say it when I asked the question. That doesn't make any sense. But then the not knowing, like, you know, what was created on what day, which I don't know every single, like, I don't know what was created on what day. I just know man was created on the sixth day. I'm a man, therefore, that's what I know. And I know God.
I was a bird. I would know when I was
anyway. And then God rested on the seventh day. But they didn't know. They knew that, and this is so funny, all the girls have like this weird thing against Eve. Like they're just like, oh my God, she ruined the world. And I'm just like,
that's because they have to have periods.
Yeah, and then they hate it. So they were like, you know, Eve messed up the world. And I'm like, well, not really. Like, yeah, in a sense, but not really. Because when Eve disobeyed God and ate of the fruit she was supposed to, nothing happened. Like it just kind of just sat there. And then when Adam did it with her, then all of humanity fell into sin. So like it was really like a collective thing. So if you can't just be mad at Eve, you have to be mad at both of them. But then you also have to remember that you have the same choice every single day. Ooh, yeah. And they were just like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, we don't have no tree. And I was like, whoa, but you do. That's so then when we got into that conversation, And then I started to see like them really want to know more about that. But that was a tangent. Mm-hmm. So then they were like, well, we don't really want to go back to the lesson. Can we just like keep talking about this? So it was like, all right, we'll finish this thought and then we'll end the night. So we talked about that. We talked about sin. They didn't know who Cain and Abel were. That blew my mind. Like they were like, who's Cain and Abel?
There's a lot that we assume because we come from a Christianized culture.
Exactly.
They're in post-Christian. They're like
no one has
no familiarity with. There's no those dots. Those like theological dots.
There's zero. So like just hearing that and then seeing what I witnessed yesterday, it's like, okay, I think I know what I need to get these kids outside of their normal, like of the way that we teach, which is fine. Like we had to do this for a season, but I think the new way to teach is literally like, hey, we're going through this story, this whole story. We're gonna like go through the whole thing, and like you let us know like what sticks out to you, because the Bible's not boring and it's very interesting. And to hear about all these things, I taught them about the dude who like right after Cain, then the next guy who came and who was like super evil or whatever, and like married, had like the most wives and had him stroke his Lamech. Oh, yeah. So and then like that was Noah's dad or grandfather.
I can't remember. I think it's dad.
But it's like, what? That's crazy. So just those type of things. I'm knowing that Gen Z is interested. It's just the way that we present it to them is what makes it boring to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot we can talk about with that. Man. So one of the things that they're up against, that we're all up against, on 228 is this idea. Let me read this quote. The temptation for us in the West is less to atheism and more to a DIY faith. That's a mix of the way of Jesus, consumerism, secular sex ethics, and radical individualism. So before it was like, oh, you're an atheist, we got to help you prove that God is real to you. That's not the biggest threat. The threat is like, oh, I'm spiritual. It's like this, like I can take whatever I want from different views or whatever, mix it together, throw Jesus on top of it, just call it, oh yeah, I'm a Christian. But in reality, we've been so colonized by the culture that we've taken that they think is right and put it in and put Jesus on top of it and say, oh yeah, he's cool with me doing X, Y, and Z, right, this or that or this or that. Well, yeah, the Bible says this, but you know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And so that's why you get all of this progressive Christianity and all these like offshoots and all this nonsense.
Yeah.
Because like we've been colonized. We don't realize we've been colonized by the culture. So
happened so fast.
How do we deal with it? What is the solution? How do we fight against colonization?
Please.
So on 229, okay, he says the question, how do we resist the enemy of the world? How do we resist the world, right? Well, our working theory has been that spiritual disciplines, this is the working theory of the whole book, spiritual disciplines are spiritual warfare. The practices of Jesus are how we fight the world, the flesh, and the devil. Okay? Now, I often think blah, 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 blah. It's about the church. So one of the big issues is radical individualism. You got to be the opposite, right? We can't follow Jesus alone.
Yeah.
The call to follow Jesus was and still is a call to join his community of the way. So one thing we got to add is that there's a huge push of individualism and like, oh yeah, I don't need to go to church.
Right. I can do it myself.
No, you cannot.
You cannot.
We need to push community so hard. And that's why I'm really excited about our small groups that we're going to do in TG. I still don't have a catchy name for them. I'm still working on that.
Bro, small groups is a catchy name.
I hate that word.
What?
It's so lame.
It's not.
A little small group. Like, anyway. But
tiny groups.
Ew. But, you know, my wife and I, we watched that Hillsong documentary on Discovery Plus. We got a 7-day free trial and then canceled it immediately after we watched the 3 parts of the Hillsong thing with, I don't know if you know what's going on with that, but Brian Houston's
I saw the whole
out and he's on charges and all this stuff and what his dad did and all. the whole point of the documentary, and it criticizes Carl Lentz a lot and his falling and all that stuff, and it highlights all that, and it basically is like, yo, mega churches are the enemy. That's like the whole point of the documentary. My wife and I have been having conversations about mega churches over the last few days, and it's like, it's an easy target. It's easy to be like, yeah, the mega church is the problem, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it's that simple, because I think you can have these same exact problems in a church of 20 people.
True.
Like, the same problems are there. It's just on a
Amplified,
bigger scale.
Yeah.
What I think we need, and this is what they're getting at here, is a truly connected community. Now, being in a church of 6,000 people makes that really difficult.
Yeah.
So all it means, you got to work harder to make sure you have connected communities. If that means you have to, like what John Mark does with his small groups at Bridgetown, where I think they have like maybe 15 people per group, and they regularly practice these different practices. They'll pick one a month, and they'll spend the whole month practicing it in their small groups.
Oh, that's dope.
And it's not just that though. It's also like literally like doing life with each other, breaking bread,
hanging out,
being there for people in difficult moments, like being connected. I think that,
that's true.
Yeah.
Man.
The church is a counter culture. So we are meant to be, okay, whatever the culture is doing, trying to colonize us, we are going to be different than not even necessarily opposite,
right?
But just different. We are going to be so different. Beautiful resistance is the way it should look.
Yeah. When I think about small groups, and honestly, if I'm just going to say this in a way that's like kind of like what I envision and like what I would literally want to see in a small group is, if I'm like, I don't know, say I'm cleaning my backyard, I would just message someone in my small group, or message the small group and say, hey guys, I'm gonna be cleaning my backyard. I need a little bit of help. And then people like literally show up to help. To not just like when it's convenient for them, but like they move things around in order to help, because this is what you would do for your family. So if someone was in need, you was like, okay, let's move some things around so that we can make sure that this person has what they need. But not only that, like, it's not just going with the mindset of just helping, but it's just going with the mindset of like, okay, cool. Like, we get to spend time with Brandon. We get to spend time with Jeff. Let's go do this thing together so that we can get to know each other on a deeper level. When that is done, I think two things happen. Obviously, one, the bond is strengthened. And then two, it almost becomes harder to hurt that person. Like you're not just going to like, you know what I'm saying? No, you're not just going to like leave them hanging. You're not, because like we're here for each other. So at that point, it's like we're searching the well-being of everyone. This might not be the greatest example, but when I watched The Chosen, and I think it's a great series. But when you look at the way that they lived in this show, and it's like a dramatization of Jesus' life, the way that they lived, they literally looked out for each other. And there was one episode where Mary Magdalene like leaves the group, and like they're all hecka worried. Yeah, it's not like she just left and they're just like, well, she left.
Sucks.
Yeah, but it's like, bro, where is she?
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, and then Jesus like, oh, go find her. And then they find
Matthew
her.
And Peter
yeah, and it's like when they find her, they bring her back. She's very remorseful. It's the craziest thing.
Yeah, I remember that.
But it reminded me of like what it would look, bro. When people leave your church, how often do you even like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while, like a text message. Like you don't even go out to go find them, but like we don't even do that. So some of the parts of like small groups, I think would be to help make that a real thing. So when someone's not showing up, you're out looking for them rather than just saying, oh, well, this is an individualized thing. They're, them and God are going through it.
That's their decision.
That's their decision. Yeah. I mean, if they choose to leave and everyone goes and like, hey, what's going on? They're like, man, F y'all. Okay, cool. Like,
hey, we're here when you get back.
We're still here for you.
We're still here for you. That's good, man.
I think that's what it looks like to have like a legit small group. So
we're going to end on this. So he says a better way to say it is the church is a counter anti-culture, right? Because secular world is currently more of an anti-culture than a culture, more about tearing down. That's why you have the whole deconstruction movement. They're very much on that, right? So he says the church is an alternative society, living in an alternative but compelling and beautiful way. So there's 3 things that the church can do to help the world or fight against the world, right? So here's the 3 things. I'm not going to read them in detail. There's whole pages on them, guys. So you get the book for this. But 232 to 235. Number 1, a community of deep relational ties in a culture of individualism and isolation. So what the culture offers is individualism and isolation. The church should be offering deep relational ties, right? Number 2, a community of holiness in a culture of hedonism.
Yes.
So the culture's obsessed with like just sensuality, feeling everything, doing drugs. I mean, literally, we have normalized watching 2 people have sex on screen, and it's not a big deal.
Not at all.
I'm like, it literally comes on. I'm like, oh, okay,
Just,
right. 2 naked people getting it. Okay, cool. Like, and it's not even like that's not okay, right? So we should be a community of holiness in a culture that's all hedonistic, right? The last one, a community of order in a culture of chaos.
Amen.
We should be providing some kind of stability and structure and peace, shalom, completeness, wholeness in a time of anxiety, excess, just and like just craziness, just complete chaos, right?
Yes, sir.
So again, those are things that the church should be offering and pushing in this post-Christian culture. We have to recognize that we have been colonized, that the culture is continually trying to colonize the church. Yeah, man.
It's trying to like, and I think that's the struggle. I mean, with everything we've talked about in this book, there's always going to be that tension.
It's not going away until Jesus comes back.
Like you have to live in that tension. You have to find a way to become comfortable with the tension and learn how to navigate it well, so that people will see you navigating the tension and say, "How are you doing that? How is it that you can live through all of that's happening and like be the way you are? How is it that you still have like a close group? Even when I see people in church who like have close friends, it's always like amazing to me, because I'm just like, how did you get to that point? And I know people have asked us, like, you know, people will look at me and Jeff and be like, oh, like you guys have been like knowing each other your whole lives, which is true. But at the same time, like we had a huge gap, and it wasn't like we just, I don't know, God like put us back together, but we've worked on that relationship. Like we've practiced doing life together, and we've been there for each other through ups and downs, and we've helped each other do all kinds of things. And in that's what strengthened us. So when people do see our relationship, they are very curious. And this is what it should look like when people see your church. They should see the relationships in your church
beautiful and compelling.
They should be like, what is happening here? And I think this is what Living No Lies teaches us, because number one, it gets you away from, it gets you to understand that the devil is lying to you about everything he says. No matter what he says, it's a lie, or at least it's a manipulation of the truth to get you to believe a lie. Secondly, your flesh wants terrible things, or it wants good things in the wrong order. So good. You have to be able to know what the order is so that you can submit yourself to God's rule and human flourishing. And then lastly, the world is never going to stop being evil. Like, I just wanted to get that out there.
That's good.
It's never going to stop being evil. So you have to learn ways. And this is why the book is great, because it teaches you not just like, it doesn't just give you ideas of what this look like. It's like practical. And literally, like one of the things that it says in the end of the book is like, get together with your community regularly. Like, that's it. It sounds like, oh wait, yeah, duh. But that's not easy, because what it does is it forces you to, number one, let go of the lie of the American dream. Like, because you're going so hard to like make yourself established and successful.
Pursuit of happiness.
And you are like losing it at the same time. Like, you're pursuing it and you're never going to catch it. So like, you have to slow down and be like, all right, cool. I'm not going to work as much so that I can hang out with my community. So you have to like fight against that. The world's not getting any better. It's not getting not any better. But like, as Christians, we are supposed to be promoting the better that can come from the world, the goodness that the God has already provided for us. So we got to like push towards that. So if you don't have this book, y'all, like, I don't really know what to tell you at this point. Because we're done. This is the last one. There's no more living, no lies coming from us.
Yeah.
So if you want to get it, please make the choice, because it's a transforming book.
Yeah.
Like, I can't stress that
It's
enough.
it's just one of the works of our time that I think is going to age really well.
Yeah.
And I think will continue to be a resource. As more Christian communities and churches become aware of it,
Mm-hmm.
I think he's on to something. I think he's on to something that is going to be helpful for us to combat the issues of our time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. So, sorry for the wait.
Hey.
Better late than never. I don't know what we're going to do next. I think we need to reach out to Will and see if we can continue similar. Talk about the book that you guys are.
Let me tell you, the relentless.
I think it's Ruthless.
Oh yeah, that's what the ruthless elimination of hurry.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a great one to discuss, because it's just.
And you guys would have to fill me in, because I'm like,
I'm telling you, I nerd out on that book. Like, I was funny. I was reading on the way over here, and I'm just like, okay, gotta move my mind back to Live No Lies, because it's just it's another one of those like absolutely practical stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, that's why I love John Mark Comer, man.
I will be able to contribute with my Garden City knowledge.
Yeah, which I got to read that one. So
that one, he did a whole like preaching series on it that I just finished.
You know what's funny? After reading these books and like watching the sermons, I'm like, he's been making this book for years.
Oh yeah, that's the book comes out of what he's already.
Yeah, it's like you see it, and that's I don't know that when you talked about Gen Z wanting to see like the raw, the real, like this is the pristine. The book is like everything he's learned already put together. But when you watch that and you're just like, wait, when was this?
Yeah,
I just bought this book 4 months ago.
Yeah,
he preached about this 4 years ago.
Yep. Bro, yeah, man,
life changing.
All right, fam. We will see you guys on the next one. Yeah, hopefully it won't be as long between this one and the next one. We're gonna make sure. All right, guys.